Everything that's old is new again, and we have seen studios take chances on new IPs lately with middling success. In our 3-part series, we're going to look at PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo and list the 5 dormant exclusives that need to make a comeback. So here are 5 PlayStation exclusives that need to come back. Firstly, there should be some guidelines for what should make the list, and there are 5 major points that we came up with. 1. It needs to be a minimum of 10 years since the last entry. 2. Nothing official about development of a new title from the developers. 3. Our list, which means some popular games might be left off the list. Your list will be different. 4. Mobile titles are not going to be included. And 5. It fits into the portfolio nicely, meaning there's not something that already exists like it. We have talked about MotorStorm before and how it burned out too fast. The game had strong commercial success as it managed to sell over 1 million copies in the first 6 months, which was quite the feat for 2006, especially considering that people were broke after purchasing the PlayStation 3. More than just commercial success, MotorStorm also fared critically well with an average review score of 82. But then Sony also acquired Evolution Studios in 2007. The company followed up with a great sequel, Pacific Rift. Once again, the game performed well in both commercial and critical aspects, with over 1 million copies sold in the first few months and another solid review average of over 82. Both great for an arcade racing title. The major gap that this fills is Sony wants to have 12 live service games by 2025, which would be around 20 years since the release of MotorStorm. PlayStation is also lacking an arcade racer that is accessible to everyone. If MotorStorm incorporated some type of motor pass and seasons that did things the right way with cool customizable elements and new tracks, then it's easy to see MotorStorm come back in a huge way. It also provides PlayStation with an arcade racer that could compete with Xbox and Nintendo, as they have Forza Horizon and Mario Kart. Not only is PlayStation lacking stealth games, but they are lacking family-friendly games. Last of Us, God of War, Days Gone, Bloodborne, these are all amazing games, but they are speaking to a very specific demographic. It makes sense. If they sell well, make more, but sometimes having variety can reach new players. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus came out over 20 years ago. The most recent entry was Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, which came out at the beginning of 2013 and was the first game in the series not to be released by the creators of the IP, Sucker Punch. This time around, Sansaru Games took the lead as Sucker Punch moved on to other things. The 4th entry in the series was the first to review below 80, and the series has been dormant since. Sly Cooper had a very specific look with its cel-shaded art style that still holds up nearly 20 years later. Most stealth games are targeted towards a more mature audience like Hitman, Dishonored, and The Last of Us, but when it comes to exclusive stealth games, Sly Cooper checks off many boxes. There are great reasons for all the other titles to make a return, but Socom US Navy SEALs was ahead of its time on the PlayStation 2. Not only was it a very solid milsim, but it was also one of the first games on the PS2 that took advantage of the network adapter and the headset, which is why the headset came packed in. Shooters are still popular today as they were in the early 2000s, and it's easy to see how Socom could integrate live service elements to become one of Sony's 12 live service games by 2025. Today, there is a huge market for milsims and extraction-based games. The trend of Battle Royale is slowly shifting towards extraction-type games like Escape from Tarkov, Vigor, and The Cycle, and even more smaller indie titles like Zero Seaver. There has also been integration from AAA publishers to include Tarkov Light modes into their huge shooters. We saw Battlefield 2042 try it with Hazard Zone that didn't quite capture the magic and got shuttered as a result, and we've also seen Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 incorporate it with their mode DMZ that has shown some traction. These AAA modes lack the realism and risk that Tarkov provides, but prove that there is becoming a much bigger market for this style of game. If only PlayStation had an exclusive IP that was much more realistic than these mainstream shooters and already had a strong fan base. PlayStation could easily bring Socom back to its glory days on the PlayStation 5. Metal Gear Solid was once the crown jewel of PlayStation that would eventually become multi-platform and eventually vanish when the relationship between Kojima and Konami fell apart. MGS has left a massive gap in the stealth genre. But what about the Kirkland version of Metal Gear or the We Have Metal Gear at Home? Siphon Filter was created by Sony Bend and took a more action-based approach to the stealth genre with the hero Gabe Logan. Bend has developed all 6 entries in the series. The first entry was met with superb reviews as it sits around a 90 average and sold close to 1 million copies in its first year. The last entry in the series was in 2007 with Logan's Shadow. It would also be easy to incorporate both single player and multiplayer elements into a new Siphon Filter. Just like we talked about with Socom, there is a massive demand for extraction-based games like Tarkov. If you use this formula but incorporated Siphon Filter's world into the game with espionage and bioterrorism, then the mode basically makes itself. You never know who you can trust and who is working for what side. If PlayStation is concerned with Call of Duty going Xbox exclusive eventually, they should start planning on having some exclusive shooters. Obviously, there's Bungie, who could make an exclusive shooter for PlayStation since Sony acquired the studio, but it would seem to make the most sense to keep Bungie making multi-platform games. This basically leaves two options if you're going to awaken a dormant IP from the vault, as it would likely be more effective than creating a brand new FPS from scratch. Killzone and Resistance. Both are good options, but Killzone is still pretty fresh with the last entry being in 2014 when the PlayStation 4 launched. The last time we saw mainline Resistance was with the third entry in 2011 on the PlayStation 3. There is no reason that PlayStation couldn't apply the Call of Duty approach to Resistance and have multiple teams develop. I could easily see Resistance getting the Battle Royale treatment, just like how Respawn took the imaginative world of Titanfall and made Apex Legends. The hope would be that it would be similar to Call of Duty with their single player, multiplayer, and co-op offerings in each package. The only downside here is that it would likely have to be developed by a different studio than Insomniac, who did the first three mainline entries, as they are very busy with Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, and whatever else they're probably working on. The studio is quite large and has always had the ability to develop good games in surprising amounts of time, but they're likely out of the question. That's our list for the top 5 exclusives that we think PlayStation needs to bring back. Let me know in the comments below what PlayStation exclusive you think needs to make a return and why. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, subscribe, leave a like, but more importantly, share this video with a friend.